have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Protesting anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of, it's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align. Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They can be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folks try to ignore us. When we at the ballot boxes to vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the socials at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or if you're feeling fancy, tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you get that push notification, and you get to keep up on all the important conversations that we're having as we all try to make sense out of what is going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the world, I'll tell you that. Now, look, we want to take you on a full journey across what's happening in America and the world. And in our second hour, we're going to land right here in Greater Los Angeles. We'll be in conversation with my friend, my brother, my colleague, James Farr. He'll be joining us as we continue to recognize the 1-year anniversary of the LA wildfires, the impact that it continues to have on the people of Altadena, also the folks in the Palisades neighborhood here in Los Angeles. And so we'll be talking to James Farr in our second hour, along with social impact guru and entertainment contributor April Rain. She's the founder of Oscar So White. She'll be joining us, talk a little bit about award season, which is upon us, if you can believe that. But in this hour, we're just minutes away from talking with Todd Belcour. He is the executive director of Social Change. He's also a civil rights lawyer. Lots to talk about, particularly related to the developing story coming out of Minnesota. But it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. They said that it wouldn't happen. They said that it couldn't happen. And just like that, The House passed a bill today to extend the Affordable Care Act enhanced subsidies for 3 years by a vote of 230 to 196. That's with not one, not two, not five, not 10, but guess what? 17 Republicans voted with Democrats to defy the GOP leadership. Ahead of the vote, Democrats boasted that several Republicans were expected to defy their leadership team, a tangible path forward that sends legislation through the Senate to the Resolute desk to address the expired subsidies. It remains a question, right? And so you might remember a few weeks ago when I had a chance to join Tavis Smiley and Dr. Cornel West on air. Remember, we had a conversation with Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. He called in. And one of the questions I had for him, and the question that still remains, is, okay, even if you're able to get this bill out of the Senate, what are you hearing among Senate Democrats? Is Chuck Schumer able to cobble together enough Republicans to get it out of the Senate to the president's desk? And even if you get it to his desk, is he going to sign it into law? There are folks in our families and our communities that are already being hit with that sticker shock, the new cost of their healthcare premiums. And so this is a step forward, but it's still not quite a slam dunk. But when's the last time you saw 17 Republicans voting with Democrats in the House of Representatives? That sends a pretty shocking message in terms of how many Republicans were willing to defy their leadership to do right by their constituents. In other news, a nurse midwife's death. It shows that all folks are at risk when birthing while Black. Our friends over at URL Media reporting that once again, the nation's Black maternal health crisis is in sharp focus, this time because of the January 2nd death of Dr. Janelle Green Smith. She was a doctor of nursing practice, and she was a certified nurse midwife. The cause of Green's death is still unknown, but initial reports indicate that she died from childbirth complications, a harsh irony, given that her career passion for improving the maternal health outcomes for Black women. Green Smith worked in South Carolina, where in 2021, 72 of every 100,000 live births among Black women resulted in their deaths before, during, or after delivery. It's according to a 2025 report from the South Carolina Institute of Medicine and Public Health. The ratio was only 37 for white women, 37 too many, but 37 compared to 72. Now, these disparities, they track with what the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have found in their data, their 2023 data, that shows that Black women have the highest maternal mortality rate of nearly 50 deaths per 100 live births, compared to 19 among white women and 16.9 among Hispanic women. So part of what we're seeing is that in 2025, there are more Black women on average that are dying during, after, even before childbirth. This is not trending in the right direction, and it's not going to solve itself. So next time somebody's asking for your vote, you need to ask them where they stand on healthcare and what are they doing to address the maternal health crisis, particularly among Black women. In other news, the LA Times is reporting that a California law, it lets a politician avoid jail for child abuse charges. And guess what? Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are furious. A mental health diversion granted to a former Kern County politician is coming under fire from numerous California lawmakers and child welfare advocates who say repeatedly amended state law is allowing an accused child abuser to avoid prosecution and possible jail time. Zach Scrivener, a former Kern County supervisor, he was charged with felony child abuse in February after he was accused of inappropriately touching one of his children in 2024. But because of a December 19th ruling by a judge, guess what's going to happen? He's going to avoid a trial and instead be funneled into a mental health diversion program, an initiative that was aimed at helping defendants with mental health disorders get treatment instead of imprisonment for certain crimes. Now, there are supporters that say that mental health diversions help certain defendants get needed mental health treatment, but lawmakers in both parties have blasted the Scrivener decision and the legislative changes that led to Assemblymember Dr. Jasmeet Bains issuing a scathing statement describing the ruling as an Epstein loophole, a reference to convicted child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And USA Today reporting that the ICE agent who fatally shot the Minnesota woman, has been identified in court documents. Homeland Security officials said that the immigration officer involved this week in the fatal shooting in Minneapolis is the same officer who was injured in June 2025 in another vehicle incident. That enforcement operations officer is identified in court documents as ICE's Jonathan Ross. Jonathan Ross, that is his name. Officials declined to independently name Ross, but said that he had at least 10 years of experience as an ICE officer and served on the agency's special response team. Vice President J.D. Vance noted at the White House today that this week's shooting incident echoed the agent's previous case that put him in the hospital. The incident he spoke of coincides with an incident in Bloomington, Minnesota on June 17th, where the officer was injured apprehending Roberto Carlos Munoz Guatemala, a citizen of Mexico. When we come forward, looking forward to our conversation with Todd Belcourt. He is a civil rights attorney. He's executive director of Social Change. He's based in Chicago. We want to get a sense of what he is seeing and hearing on the ground following the incident that took place in neighboring Minnesota. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be clear. President Trump and his entire administration stand fully behind the heroic men and women of ICE and will always uphold law and order in the United States of America. The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement that has spread across our country, where our brave men and women of federal law enforcement are under organized attack. Right now, immigration and customs enforcement officers are facing a 1,200% increase in assaults, a 3,200% increase in vehicle rammings, and an 8,000% increase in death threats. ICE agents are faithfully enforcing federal law to protect the safety of the American people by removing criminal illegal aliens from our country, which is exactly what nearly 80 million Americans elected President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance to do. Radicals in the Democrat Party are furious over this. They don't want our border secured or criminal illegal aliens being removed. As a result, Democrats are impeding immigration enforcement operations daily, creating extremely heightened and dangerous circumstances that make it nearly impossible for the men and women of law enforcement to simply do their jobs. Democrats are calling to defund federal law enforcement agencies who are protecting public safety. And Democrats are calling to abolish ICE and defund the police. That will never be allowed to happen under this president and vice president. The Trump administration will redouble our efforts to get the worst of the worst, criminal illegal alien killers, rapists, and pedophiles off of American streets. The Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota, not only to remove criminal illegal aliens, but also to continue conducting door-to-door investigations of the rampant fraud that has taken place in the state under the failed and corrupt leadership of Democrat Governor Tim Walz. Taxpayers have been ripped off to the tune of billions of dollars in this one state alone, and that is going to end, and people are going to be held accountable. The Trump administration has activated thousands of federal agents, doubled the number of U.S. attorneys in the DOJ office in Minneapolis, and surged resources to hold fraudsters accountable and demand justice for law-abiding American taxpayers and citizens across our country. And that's what brings the Vice President out here with me today to discuss all the Trump administration is doing and to make an additional important announcement on this front. So please, Mr. Vice President.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. You were just listening to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt say a lot of things. I'm going to give Todd Belcour, our guest, the floor. Todd is the Executive Director of Social Change, which is based in Chicago. He's also a civil rights attorney, and he's a frequent contributor here on A More Perfect Union. Welcome back to the show, Todd.
Thank you for having me, Doctor, and Happy New Year to you.
And Happy New Year to you. It's hard to believe that we're barely a week into the new year, and these are some pretty serious news stories that have been swirling from Washington to Minnesota. I want to give you a chance to respond to what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just shared related to Minnesota. It struck me as odd that following the death of a 37-year-old observer who was shot in the head by an ICE agent, who had a family, who had a 6-year-old kid, the tone coming out of the White House today struck me as completely inappropriate, completely unbecoming. The rush to politicize this thing, the rush to go after Governor Tim Walz and score political points, while that community is reeling, that community is hurting. There are protests erupting across the country now in a second day. What do you make of what the press secretary had to say?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, being louder doesn't make you right. And that's what they're doing right now as the administration. It's like their entire posture is not only to double and triple down on kind of the callous and depraved approach and response to the death of a woman who should not have been shot, but completely ignoring the fact that she was murdered in cold blood. I mean, now we have a government who's looking us in the eye as American people and telling us that we did not see what we saw. You know, the footage doesn't lie. It makes it very clear that the officer who's now been identified had ample time to get out the way, was actually fully out of the way, and still shot unprovoked. So to not have, but to have a press conference committed to law and order and accountability without recognizing the hypocrisy and the lack of accountability within the administration and for the ICE agents, not only here, but in LA and Chicago and other places where there have been significant incidents where people have lost their lives and that they shouldn't have. So the criminal activity is not coming from the people who are here working and doing whatever they can to support their families. It's coming from the ICE agents who are occupying our cities against our will.
Yeah. And speaking of occupying our cities, NBC News reporting that Governor Walz of Minnesota, he's doubtful of a fair outcome as the FBI is taking over the shooting probe. This is what we know as of right now. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension will not, will not be part of the investigation into an ICE agent's slaying of Renee Nicole Good. That's what officials have said today. Instead, the FBI will be solely responsible for the investigation. Governor Tim Walz says he's pessimistic that a fair outcome will come from a federal probe, with local authorities having been ousted from the investigation. Todd, as a civil rights attorney, are there any tools at the disposal of state and local prosecutors in Minnesota, or is this a big footing by the federal government that they just can't get around?
This is certainly big footing. There's no question. I mean, transparency and accountability are already embedded in these processes and the way in which police officers are supposed to be investigated. With the George Floyd issue that took place in Minnesota, there's a lot of direct response in terms of how to handle and address issues with police involved shootings. And in this case, there should be no separation between how police are treated when they're involved in a shooting and how these federal agents are treated. But there clearly is. Not only was Vice President Vance talking about immunity, but he's not talking about the impunity. I mean, to shoot a woman in cold blood without justification, that there's no immunity that allows for that. So I think it's the administration stop telling us that our eyes are lying to us and instead just hold the people responsible who are terrorizing our communities. And to that, as you mentioned, and to pigeonhole all this as a sinister left-wing attack just because people do not want ICE agents in our neighborhoods. That's as American as anything, to speak out, to stand up, to say something, to even have your car be in the way. All those things are possible, very peaceful ways to protest. But retaliating by shooting, it shows exactly how depraved and the impunity with which these ICE agents know they can operate.
I want to get back to the question of qualified immunity and where the White House stands and where the people stand. I want to get back to that in a moment. But first, while we've been on air, NBC News is reporting that 2 folks have been shot by federal agents in Portland. According to city officials, federal agents shot 2 people. 2 people were shot this afternoon in Portland, Oregon. According to the city government, the Portland police responded to a report of a shooting on Southeast Main Street just before 2:20 p.m. this afternoon. At 2:24 p.m., police got information that someone was asking for help, and officers found a male and a female with apparent gunshot wounds. The conditions of the injured people are not known. Officers used a tourniquet when responding to the injured. The 2 injured people were taken to the hospital. This has been reported while we've been on air. This has happened, and NBC News is reporting it. The Portland mayor, as of 5 minutes ago, is calling for ICE to leave the city following the shooting. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson called for ICE to end their operation in the city until a full investigation is conducted into today's shooting. Earlier today, again, 2 people were shot and injured by federal agents in the Hazelwood neighborhood. When we come forward, we're going to get civil rights attorney Todd Belcour's reaction to that, and also learn what other cities might be doing or should be doing in the wake of these back-to-back tragedies that are happening involving ICE in different states. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Todd Belcour when we come forward.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is not saying whether he'll run for re-election in 2027, saying he's focused on reducing violence and expanding affordable housing.
That's what my focus is, and that's what my focus will remain. And when it's time to talk politics, we'll get into that.
Meanwhile, Mike Quigley and Maria Pappas have confirmed their mayoral bids. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James is demanding answers from Instacart over pricing experiments. A study found some shoppers were charged up to 23% more, prompting concerns the company may have violated state law. And Black heavyweight boxing star Anthony Joshua is speaking out after a car crash in Nigeria killed his trainers. Joshua, who suffered minor injuries, shared an emotional tribute on Instagram, thanking fans for their support and acknowledging the pain their families are facing. Nigerian police say the driver involved has been charged and the case is moving forward. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Tough in Pasadena, eastbound side of the 210, slowing from Mountain as you continue all the way to Foothill Boulevard. More delays in Upland from Baseline to the 15. It's also very slow as you roll on the 5. This is southbound out of Burbank, leaving just about Alameda. Delays all the way to the 605. Head out to Orange County, northbound 5, getting out of Irvine. You're on the brakes leaving Bake Parkway, and that's a tough drive all the way to Euclid in Anaheim.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
If you have the skills to be an NFL head coach, this is a good time to be job hunting. There are now 8 NFL teams looking for a new head coach. The Miami Dolphins are the latest team to tell their guy to clean out his office. They fired Mike McDaniel Thursday morning after 4 seasons. Along with Miami, these are the teams in need of a new head coach: Atlanta, Cleveland, Baltimore, Arizona, Tennessee, the New York Giants, and Las Vegas Raiders. Lakers star Luka Doncic is still leading the NBA in scoring. Doncic is averaging 33.7 per game. Clippers star Kawhi Leonard leads the NBA in steals with 2.2 per game. Friday night at 6 p.m., Out of Bounds is moving to prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. And you can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me: how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Investigations agencies says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agencies' access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue, that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. You were just listening to Vice President J.D. Vance, who made an appearance in the White House press briefing room today at the podium. Todd Belcourt is joining us. He's the Executive Director of Social Change. He's also a civil rights attorney. Todd, is absolute immunity, is that a thing? Was the Vice President right about that?
He was not right about that. Certainly, there's no question that while the president does enjoy some of those privileges, that certainly does not extend to federal officers. So, and that's clear with not only generations of court precedent, but just common sense. I mean, obviously, we're not empowering our police or law enforcement in any shape or form to run amok and shoot whoever they feel like when they feel like. There has to be justification. There clearly was not in this instance. And everyone who saw the video saw very clearly that the person was not in fear for her life as they are out of harm's way, that she had no weapons or anything to present that would actually create an issue to justify had any sort of sentiment. That fear overwhelmed him. He had to use that sort of force, and he continued shooting after the initial shot when the car was already moving the other direction. So this not only should this be an investigation that's open to the local law enforcement, but it's also the entire community should continue to investigate and hold the administration accountable for failing to have ICE agents who are respecting the rule of law.
And speaking of respecting the rule of law, there seems to be a pattern and practice afoot. I just shared before the break that there are reports coming out of Portland, Oregon, of an ICE agent involved in a shooting of two people there, a man and a woman. I also want to remind people that the LA Times is reporting on this situation around New Year's Eve. The question of whether it was an active shooter or ICE agent's victim, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security said that an off-duty ICE agent was responding to, quotes, an active shooter when he gunned down Keith Porter Jr. on New Year's Eve in Northridge. Porter's family and their attorney, they contend that he was firing a gun into the air and posed no threat. The LAPD and LA County District Attorney's Office, they said that they're investigating the incident, but a charging decision could take years. Even if the vice president's claim of absolute immunity for ICE agents, if that's not true, if they are behaving in a manner as if it is true, doesn't that pose a significant threat to the public?
Absolutely. And this is why in places like Portland, in places like LA, DC, people are protesting. They're speaking up. They're speaking out. Because not only this is wrong, it's dangerous. And people are losing their lives simply because they're protesting, simply because they're doing what's already considered a well-known tradition in LA. Yes, it's not something that's, encouraged, but certainly the idea of shooting a gun in the air is something that's been done in LA and other cities for generations. So who gave this person the active shooter tip? That's still unfounded. That just came out of nowhere. He's clearly responding and acting on his own. And those are sorts of things that you have to hold people accountable for. We can't have any more of these situations where people are scared of the police but also scared of federal law enforcement. There has to be some place that the community can turn. There has to be some people we can trust to actually protect and serve. And right now, neither of those things are happening.
What are you hearing among folks in the law enforcement community now? I would imagine that officers out there that subscribe to a guardian mentality, that have a track record of working effectively with the community, who have built the trust with community, I would imagine that they would be aghast of what's happening right now. So much hard work seemingly going down the drain if people fear law enforcement, or worse yet, lump all law enforcement together. What are you hearing from the law enforcement community folks that you work with?
You're right. I mean, this is definitely a stain on law enforcement more broadly that has an unintended effect on deterring people from continuing to engage in the community building activities that the police departments have been doing on the ground locally for the last several years. So there's a lot of law enforcement officials or in law enforcement, whether it be police superintendents or whether it be mayors, or whether it be just regular beat cops who see what's going on. It's making their jobs harder, but also it's making it clear that they even have a different standard than the regular police in terms of the immunity that the vice president's claiming, in terms of the way in which they're just jumping over to jurisdictional boundaries and doing whatever they want. These are things that law enforcement and local contexts are having real issues with, but their concerns are going unheard by the the very administration that says it's supposed to respect law and order and respect the badge and all these things. But at the end of the day, they're just doing exactly what they want, and that's terrorizing communities.
And speaking of terrorizing communities, one of the things that the president said aboard Air Force One on Sunday night, standing beside Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed it. But he talked about how his administration is looking for ways to employ the Insurrection Act. You and I have talked about this before. For our leaders, learners, and listeners who may not remember that conversation, can you sort of set the table as to the powers that this president, this administration would have employing the Insurrection Act, and layer on top of that a point of view that this administration seems to have, that ICE is entitled to absolute immunity, meaning that they can act with impunity. They can literally shoot somebody in the head and get away with it.
Well, and that's what's happening on the ground. I mean, when you talk about the Insurrection Act, it's an excuse to call for martial law, for going back to the Wild Wild West, where law enforcement is the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And that's, of course, not only extremely dangerous in terms of how that represents the type of power it's imbuing and the abuse of power that's embedded in that, it's also very scary because the justification used to really trigger that is just, it's going to be based off lies, it's going to be based off conjecture, it's going to be based off some of the rhetoric that you just heard right there in the press conference room about sinister left and blocking federal investigations and all these things that are just peaceful protests or acting out and responding the only way people can when their government is trampling all over them. And this is going to get worse before it's getting better. And I think Governor Walz is right to make sure people don't take the bait, don't get engaged in any violent or encounters that can justify violence in the minds of folks who are already clearly trigger happy. Because if enough of that happens, then that'll be enough for them, I think, in administration's mind, especially in these cities that the president's not a fan of just doing whatever he can to continue to extend his control.
As a civil rights attorney, compare this moment in your career to any other moment. Talk to us about, how the ways in which it's vastly different, but also, what is giving you hope? This is a new year. We're only 8 days into the new year, right? On January 1st, at midnight, we all were filled with so much optimism. And now, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are filled with a lot of despair. And so talk to us as a civil rights attorney who has been trained to work through thorny issues like this. What is keeping you up late at night and what's giving you hope?
Well, starting with the keeping me up late, I mean, certainly the idea of the administration really pushing this absolute immunity thing so broadly and loudly and wrongly. But if that continues to gain momentum, I can see more violence, more people losing their lives without justification. And that's terrifying. I mean, for the very government that we pay our taxes to be occupying our towns and unleashing hell on people, and not the very folks that they keep talking about, the most heinous crimes, the rapists, the pedophiles, all those things. It's everyday people who have families, people like Brother Porter. And that has to stop. And I think what gives me hope is all the people who are now engaged, who are tired of being tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired, and are now organizing, getting ready to get the vote out for midterms, who are starting to run for office, who are not only talking the talk, but walking the walk to make sure that we actually get towards that more perfect union that we're supposed to be. And right now, it's through the woods, it's kind of hard to see the goodness. But certainly when you go down to the activism level and on the ground level in places like, whether it be Portland or Georgia or Chicago, you see more people are saying enough is enough. And I think that's exactly what America needs right now.
Well, one of those folks who's saying enough is enough is Mayor Melvin Carter of St. Paul, Minnesota. When we come forward, we're going to hear what Mayor Carter, outgoing Mayor Carter of St. Paul, what he had to say, his message, not just to the people of St. Paul and the people of Minnesota, but to people of conscience everywhere. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union. More with Todd Belcour when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was a house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We have a little bit of a sound from Mayor Melvin Carter. He is the outgoing mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota. And he had something really important to say, a very important message to the nation, talking about, how the Trump administration's agenda violates human dignity and undermines the principles of community safety. That's just what he was saying a couple weeks ago. And today he said something that was just as moving as he is departing office. That is just the summary of what he had to say. But we have Todd Belcour with us. He's the executive director of Social Change, which is based in Chicago. Melvin Carter, Mayor Carter's comments seem to be attempting to shock the conscience of the American people. Are you optimistic that something will happen in short order, as if what's already happened hasn't been enough? Are you optimistic that whatever that thing is that needs to happen to shock the conscience of a critical mass of Americans to act decisively, to check this administration, to check the members of Congress that are checked out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is our George Floyd moment for sure. I mean, how many shootings, how many more heinous crimes you need to see committed by ICE agents before you speak up and join the cries of mayors and law enforcement officials and other people from all the nations saying enough is enough, get out of our town. I think at the end of the day, the administration is doing everything it can to not only ignore facts, but also ignore the voices of the American people. And that's why the administration has as bad of a underwater approval rating as you've seen in the history of this country. So I think the writing is on the wall about what this means to the administration. They're very clear in standing up and saying no matter what ICE agents do, they have their back. Now it's up to us as activists, organizers, lawyers to say, well, we'll see you in court, because that's certainly something that's outside of a reasonable interpretation of current statutes, and something needs to be done. And I think at this point, the organizing around it and the attention brought to it, I think is a great snowflake to kind of start to build the avalanche of change. And now we'll just have to keep writing it until the midterms and see how it reflects in terms of the number of people who get out to vote and how it speaks to the administration's agenda.
And speaking of, sort of keeping people in the know and putting people on notice, Robert Reich, who was the former labor secretary under Bill Clinton, he put up a post about 3 hours ago to get people's attention, remind people that Fortune 500 companies have contracts with ICE. And he goes down the list. He lists Amazon and AT&T, Booz Allen Hamilton, Kachi, Charter Communications, Comcast, Dell, Ecolab, FedEx, General Dynamics, L3 Harris, Motorola, Thermo Fisher, and UPS. And he put up this post saying that folks should know who profits from Trump's cruelty. What is your theory on boycotts? A lot of folks reference the Montgomery bus boycott, which took place over the course of many years. It was very targeted. It was very focused. It was a great inconvenience to a lot of people, but they understood there was something bigger afoot, and a critical mass of folks were invested there. I would add that there weren't a lot of other options for people, right? And so, as a civil rights attorney, as a social justice leader on the front lines, what's your theory on the effectiveness of boycotts, when and when not to boycott?
Well, boycotts are definitely a tried and true effective model when they are focused, when they are targeted, and their solidarity is there. You see how Target lost significant revenue because of the boycott against Target and other similar businesses. But I think at the end of the day, a boycott without also using that money to invest in Black communities, in the businesses that support you, I think we still miss the boat. I think no matter what the situation is, if we're investing in our communities and we're making sure that our dollars reflect our values, we'll all be in a better position. And I think highlighting the different organizations and businesses that are working with ICE is a great idea to help people really contextualize how these businesses and the government are really embedded with one another in the worst possible way. And there's more that we need to do as the electorate, as the people, to not only make sure we're not supporting these sort of actions, speaking out and going to protest, but making sure that our dollars reflect our values in that way as well. And this is the time to do it. As if we could just get to the holiday season, people are already trying to cinch up their belt and try to budget. Good budget and make sure you bypass these different Amazon addictions and everything else, and make sure you're going to your local community store and supporting Black and brown small local businesses while you're at it.
And I would add, you don't have to do that just around the holiday season. You can do that year round, right? I mean, our voice is our vote, and our dollars also represent our vote, right? And so, you got to really think about that thing that you go to Target for, or that you did go to Target for. Is that thing really a necessity?
Yeah.
I think we all got to ask ourselves, what are we willing to do differently to stand up for not just our own dignity, but the dignity of our neighbors, the dignity of folks in our community, the dignity of our fellow Americans, the just basic human dignity. What are we willing to do to stand up? And I'm not suggesting that people put themselves in harm's way. I am always suggesting that people do so peacefully, right? But it feels to me like we're in a spot right now where this is untenable.
Yeah.
This is untenable that just less than 24 hours after someone was shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, there are reports of the shooting of 2 additional people in Portland, Oregon, right? And there was a very suspicious case involving an off-duty ICE officer in Northridge, California on New Year's Eve, right? And so our thanks to Todd Belcourt, the executive director of Social Change, one of our resident civil rights attorneys that we turn to help us separate the fact from the fiction. Where can people go quickly to follow you?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to be here on your show. Of course, good doctor, but check us out at socialchange.site is our website, or Chi Social Change on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, CHI Social Change, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
We shall. Yes, we shall. Happy New Year. We'll talk again soon. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. In our next hour, we're talking about the anniversary of the LA wildfires. We'll be joined with my friend, my colleague, my brother, James Farr, the host of Conversations Live here on KBLA. He's been keeping them honest as the recovery continues. More with him when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says city worker layoffs could be on the table after a contentious budget fight with the Chicago City Council.
There could be, real serious consequences to workers who are attached to community safety.
He warns revenues may fall short, raising the possibility of mid-year cuts.